Yo guys, Phase Shifter here, and we've got a message from Arrowhead, an update on the 60-day timeline that we've been waiting to hear about, and I'm just going to go through this really quickly just to keep you updated and give you my thoughts about this. So they start off by saying, it's been a couple of weeks since we committed to our 60-day plan, and our team have been hard at work refining the gameplay experience, addressing your concerns by doing in-depth reviews and adjustments of various systems, from weapon balancing, we already knew that was going on, and enemy behavior, we also knew that was going on, to the overall game mechanics, and that's something we also assumed. We are fully committed to ensuring Helldivers 2 meet the high standards we all expect. We see the Steam reviews, ouch, and we hear you loud and clear. We're excited to share more details about our upcoming update, which will include significant changes aimed at refining and improving your experience in Helldivers 2. And here's the important bit. This includes we are reworking armor penetration, anti-tank weapons, and enemy armor and health values. As part of the rework, we have done an initial balancing pass on over 30 weapons and stratagems. Now, this on surface level sounds absolutely epic, and I'm really hopeful that this is going to send the game in the right direction. And they've also gone on to say, we are overhauling a number of different enemies to make them feel more rewarding to kill when you use proper tools to handle them, but also ensure that they still feel formidable. So that's quite a big task, I'd imagine. Enemy bots, including Hulks, will have lower armor, interesting, and the number of rockets fired by enemies like the Devastators and the gunship will be limited, making combat feel more balanced. That's interesting as well. So we're going to actually have ammo supplies on enemies, which is going to open up some interesting gameplay styles, I imagine. The armor values of particularly tough bug enemies like the Charger, Impaler, and Biotitan will also be reduced. So they're basically making things squishier and the weapons more powerful, which on surface level makes me think that they're actually looking at making us more overpowered, which is what we've been kind of saying we enjoy for quite a long time as a community. Weapons such as the autocannon, heavy machine gun, and the AMR will be more effective, providing greater loadout versatility. Hang on, isn't the autocannon like the best weapon in the game though? I would say those three weapons aren't particularly weak weapons. I'd say it's other weapons that are weak. That's a bit of a odd one. I don't know if I'm misinterpreting that. I don't know what you think, chat, but those three weapons they've named, I actually use now and hold them as kind of like the higher tier weaponry anyway, but we'll move on anyway. We are also working towards additional improvements for the flamethrower weapons. Interesting, good, so they're going to maybe revert that or something to that effect. We're taking this opportunity to consider new player fantasies and design goals for these weapons and stratagems based on feedback we've received and the trends we are observing during gameplay. So that's good. They're actually watching how people are playing and hopefully taking some qualitative, not quantitative feedback and checking that to make sure that they are making the correct decisions. Why are my glasses so wonky? Jeez, ridiculous. Our next update containing all these changes and more details is scheduled to go live on the 17th of September. So if I just check my calendar now, that is 2. So that's 2 weeks away. It's actually less. It's actually about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 days away, folks. That's less than 2 weeks away. Wow, quick maths there from Phase Shifter. That is exciting. And I will say before we keep going through this, I'm really glad they've given that date. I am so happy they haven't gone all out this week and tried to kind of compete with Space Marine. I think this is a really, really good decision on their half. Some FAQs, but what does a balancing pass entail and how are you conducting it? Our design team lead by our Chief Creative Officer, Johan Pilestead, aka the Pile Titan, analyzes player feedback, internal and external playtests, gameplay data, and our design goals for each weapon and stratagem. Folks, I'm not going to go into this. I'm going to look at the beta testing question and then we're going to take a look at the blog post on Steam. What about the beta testing you mentioned previously? We have conducted closed beta tests for the last 2 weekends. We're starting small to ensure everything runs smoothly before expanding. They have been a test bed for the program, and we intend to expand it in the future and invite a wider variety of testers to playtest our upcoming updates. It will take some time to get the infrastructure in order, but the intent is that these tests will find issues, missteps before we release them to the player base at large, providing a better experience for all players. So who is going to be invited to those playtests? That's what I want to know. How are they going to do that? Is it something that you opt into, or is it something that is just going to be done at random so they can get a wider range of different types of players to work with? That's very interesting. And of course, they are reiterating here that it will go up on the 17th of September. So what are my initial thoughts on this? Well, on first glance, folks, this looks like they are doing all the right things and certainly saying all the right things. And my first sort of reservation will be, will it pay off? Will it be what they're promising? We've had our hands burnt quite a few times, so forgive me for being a little bit skeptical. But on the flip side of that, I am incredibly hopeful. I've said for a while now that I am absolutely convinced that this game is going to come back with a bang, and if this pays off, which it certainly looks like it will, we are going to be back in business with Helldivers 2. What are my thoughts about the changes that have been named? Well, I mean, initially what this seems to be doing, folks, is I think it's actually going to make the game feel probably a bit easier in some ways. It's certainly going to feel easier in terms of having to deal with enemies, and the fact that they've named the HMG, the autocannon, and the anti-material rifle being more effective kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit, because they are perhaps some of the most effective weapons in the game due to the way that they play anyway. And I do think that they're actually the ones that, well, you could just go through my channel and look at the builds that I make. Most of them feature these weapons and the railgun as well. So I'm not entirely sure why they've named those 3 weapons, but that being said, they're buffing weaponry, which is a massive win. That is what the loudest request has been for quite a while now. And the fact that they've said that they're nerfing things like the Bile Titan, the Charger, and the Impaler, that's interesting. I think if they start nerfing the armor values and just the general versatility of enemies like that, it opens up the game a little bit more for them to be a little bit more creative with how they can play around with compositions and things like that. And it'll give the game a much more run and gunny type feel to it, rather than running away for half an hour just to try and get a stratagem in to deal with a Bile Titan. That's my initial impression. I'm not sure what you think, folks. Sound off in the comments below. And what's also really interested me is the fact that they are saying they're reworking and doing initial balance passes on 30 weapons and stratagems. I'm presuming that means basically the whole arsenal, which is needed. There are a number of weapons and stratagems that just feel like a complete waste of time compared to other weapons and choices that we can make. So I'm feeling really hopeful about this. And the other thing that's really stood out is the gunships and the Devastators having a limited amount of ammunition, and that is going to open up another layer when we are fighting against bots. The idea of kiting and hiding and using cover and finding those little windows to fire at an enemy and then get away and make them waste their ammo just adds another level of strategy that I think will be quite interesting to play and check out. I'd love to be in the beta test, so Arrowhead, if you're watching this, sign me up. I'd absolutely love to see how that plays. I think that it will completely change the way the game plays, and whether that's for better or for worse, we need to find out. And finally, I would say that the 17th of September is an excellent date for them to choose. I think they've actually really nailed that, and with the recent Illuminate tease that we've seen come out in the last day or so, I think that they're certainly looking like they're pulling their socks up and getting their act together, and that's going to give us 13 days to wait, folks, until this patch. And it's great that they've given us an actual date to look forward to. I don't know what you think, folks. I'm pretty excited. Sound off in the comments below and let me know what you think. In the meantime, I'm going to be playing Space Marine 2 until this patch, and it's filled me with loads of hope seeing that that's there. So come check out the channel, come check out the stream. There might be a chance that I'm on live on Twitch or on YouTube. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.